Olivia Parker sat quietly in the lawyer's office, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her parents sat on one side of the long wooden table, her younger sister Grace on the other, flashing her usual perfect smile. The room felt heavy, too still, like everyone was waiting for something Olivia didn't know was coming. The lawyer cleared his throat, adjusted his glasses, and began reading from a document. "According to the decision made by your parents," he said slowly, "your late grandmother's inheritance, including her house and a sum of $200,000, will be transferred to Grace Parker." For a moment Olivia didn't understand the words. She blinked, thinking she must have heard wrong. "I'm sorry, what?" she asked quietly. The lawyer looked uncomfortable. "Your parents have decided to put everything under Grace's name." Olivia turned to her parents, her voice trembling. "You did what?" Her father didn't meet her eyes. Her mother looked down at her purse, pretending to adjust something inside. No one spoke. Grace, meanwhile, smiled sweetly and said, "Thank you, Mom, Dad. I'll take good care of it." Olivia's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. "Grandma wanted us both to have something," she whispered. "She told me that herself." Her mother finally spoke, her tone sharp but calm. "Grace needs it more than you do, Olivia. You'll understand one day." That was it. No apology. No reason. Just cold justification. Olivia stood up slowly, the chair scraping against the floor. "Understand," she repeated, her voice breaking. "You took what she left for me and handed it away like it meant nothing." Her father sighed. "Don't be dramatic, Olivia. We're doing what's best for the family." "The family," she said bitterly, looking at each of them in turn. "You mean your favorite child?" Grace rolled her eyes, pretending to look embarrassed. "Liv, come on. Don't make this awkward." Olivia laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the only way to stop herself from crying. She gathered her bag and walked toward the door. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady when she said, "You made your choice. Just remember, so did I." As she stepped out of the office, the air outside hit her like a slap, cold, sharp, real. For the first time, she wasn't just heartbroken. She was awake. That was the day Olivia Parker stopped being their daughter and started being her own person. Olivia Parker had always been the kind of child who worked hard for everything. When she was little, she would wake up early to help her mother clean the house or make breakfast before school. She did it because she believed that if she worked hard enough, her parents would finally be proud of her. Grace, her younger sister, was different. She didn't need to try. Everyone loved her just because she was Grace. The pretty one, the cheerful one, the one who always got what she wanted. When Grace spilled milk, their mother laughed and called her careless but cute. But when Olivia made a mistake, even a small one, her father would sigh and say, "Liv, can't you be more like your sister?" Their father, a successful contractor, often brought home gifts for Grace: fancy clothes, new shoes, even a bicycle. Olivia never asked for much, but she'd still help him clean his tools or organize papers in his office. Every time she'd wait for him to look up and say, "Good job, Liv." He never did. Instead, he'd pat Grace on the head and say proudly, "Grace is the future of this family." When Olivia was 15, she got accepted into a summer writing program, something she had dreamed about for years. But her mother told her she couldn't go. "Grace needs new dance lessons," she said. "You can go next time." Next time never came. From that day, Olivia learned to hide her disappointment behind a quiet smile. She helped Grace with homework, shared her savings, and even defended her when she got into trouble. Every time her mother would say, "You're such a good sister, Olivia. Grace is lucky to have you." But deep down, Olivia wished someone would say, "You're lucky to have Olivia." Years passed, and the distance between them grew. By the time Olivia finished university, she knew she couldn't rely on her family for support, emotional or financial. She got a job as a paralegal in a small law firm, working long hours and renting a modest apartment in the city. Her parents rarely called unless they needed something. Grace, meanwhile, became an online influencer, showing off her perfect life with pictures of vacations and parties funded by their parents. Olivia told herself she didn't care. She had her independence, her job, her quiet life. But sometimes, when she saw a family eating together in a cafe, or when Grace's posts popped up online, that old ache returned. The one that whispered, "Why wasn't I ever enough?" The only person who truly saw Olivia was her grandfather, Arthur Parker. He lived in an old countryside house surrounded by tall oak trees. He had been a builder all his life, a man of few words but deep wisdom. Whenever Olivia visited, he'd make her tea and ask about her work. He didn't pity her or compare her to Grace. He just listened. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Arthur said, "You've got the Parker grit, Liv. You don't bend easy. Don't let anyone take what's yours." Olivia smiled softly. "Sometimes it feels like they already did, Grandpa." He chuckled. "Then take it back. Not with anger, but with strength. They don't expect that." His words stayed with her. He was the only one who believed in her worth without asking her to prove it. So Olivia kept going. She worked late nights, built her own savings, and learned to depend only on herself. But no matter how far she went, the hurt from her childhood never fully disappeared. When her family betrayed her in that lawyer's office, it wasn't just about money. It was about every moment she had spent trying to earn their love, every dream she had given up, every word of praise she never heard. That betrayal wasn't new. It was just the final proof of what she had known deep down all her life. To them, Olivia was never enough. But this time, she wouldn't try to be. Olivia stood in her parents' living room, her hands clenched into fists. The betrayal from the lawyer's office still burned in her chest like fire. "How could you do that to me?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Grandma wanted us both to have something. How could you give everything to Grace?" Her mother sighed, pretending to be calm. "Olivia, please don't make this into drama. Grace needs it more than you do." "Needs it more?" Olivia repeated, her voice rising. "She lives at home. She doesn't work, and she spends money like it's water. I've worked for everything I have." Her father finally spoke, his tone firm. "You have a good job, Liv. You're doing fine. Grace still needs our help." Olivia stared at him in disbelief. "So I'm punished because I'm responsible?" "Don't twist it," her mother snapped. "We're only trying to be fair." Olivia let out a bitter laugh. "Fair? You call that fair?" She shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. "All my life, I've done everything you asked. I gave up things so Grace could have them. And now even Grandma's last gift to me, you took that too." Her parents stayed silent, and that silence said everything. Grace, sitting on the couch, looked smug. "Liv, don't be so emotional. It's just money." Olivia turned to her, her voice low and cold. "It's not about money, Grace. It's about respect, something you'll never understand." Her father stood up, ending the conversation. "Enough. What's done is done. You'll understand one day when you have children." Olivia clapped her back. "No, I won't," she said. "Because I'll never treat my child like this." She walked out, her heart heavy but her mind made up. That night, she packed her things and moved out of her apartment, renting a small studio closer to work. It was tiny, one room, cracked walls, an old kitchen. But it was hers. She cut all contact with her family. No calls, no messages. Just silence. Months passed. Olivia threw herself into her job, taking extra cases and working late hours. She tried to bury the pain under work, but some nights, when she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her grandmother's face came to her, gentle, kind, disappointed. One rainy evening, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. When she answered, a calm voice said, "Is this Miss Olivia Parker? I'm calling from Mercy General Hospital. It's about your grandfather, Mr. Arthur Parker." Her heart dropped. "What happened?" "He's been admitted. You might want to come soon." Olivia rushed to the hospital, her hands trembling as she signed in at the front desk. When she entered his room, she froze. Her grandfather looked frail, his skin pale, but his eyes still had the same quiet strength she remembered. "Grandpa," she whispered, taking his hand. He smiled weakly. "Liv, you came." "I came as soon as I heard. Why didn't anyone tell me?" He gave a small, tired laugh. "Because they didn't want you to know. They think I'm too old to see what's going on." Olivia frowned. "What do you mean?" Arthur looked at her, his eyes sharp despite his age. "They think I'm blind, but I see more than they know. I know what they did to you." Her throat tightened. "Grandpa, I didn't even care about the money. I thought family meant something." "I know, Liv," he said softly. "That's why I need you to promise me something." She leaned closer. "Anything. Don't fight them." "Not yet," he said. Let them think they've won. Olivia frowned, confused. What are you talking about? He squeezed her hand gently. There will come a time when the truth speaks for itself. When it does, speak the truth, and nothing else. She wanted to ask more, but his nurse entered, adjusting his fore. Her grandfather closed his eyes, tired. As she stood beside his bed, tears filled her eyes. She didn't understand his words, but she felt something shift inside her. A mix of sorrow and quiet strength. On her way out of the hospital, Olivia looked back once more at her grandfather's room. His voice echoed in her mind. Let them think they've won. Something told her this wasn't the end. Grandpa had a plan, and one day, everyone would know the truth. Olivia rebuilt herself from the ground up. After the betrayal, she promised she would never depend on anyone again. The pain in her heart became her fuel. Every morning, she left her small studio apartment before sunrise and walked to the law firm where she worked as a paralegal. She worked harder than anyone else, double-checking every file, staying late to finish reports, and helping her boss win difficult cases. Slowly, her dedication began to pay off. Her boss noticed her work ethic and started giving her more responsibility. At night, when the office was quiet and the city lights glowed through the window, Olivia would look out and whisper to herself, "You're doing fine, Liv. You don't need them." She cooked simple meals, paid her bills on time, and started saving little by little. Each month, she added something to her small savings account. It wasn't much, but it was hers, earned honestly, without anyone's help. Meanwhile, Grace was living the opposite kind of life. On social media, she posted pictures of herself at luxury resorts, showing off expensive dresses and fancy dinners. "Hard work pays off," she would write under her photos. Even though everyone knew she had never worked a day in her life, their parents proudly shared Grace's posts, leaving comments like, "So proud of our daughter," or "You're shining, sweetheart." Not once did they mention Olivia. It was as if she didn't exist. Sometimes, Olivia would come across their posts by accident. Her chest would tighten, but she'd scroll past quickly. She had stopped hoping for recognition. Then one evening her phone rang again. This time it was her grandfather. His voice sounded weak. "Liv," he said softly, "I'd like to have one last family dinner. I want everyone there." Olivia hesitated. The thought of sitting across from her parents and sister made her stomach twist. But she couldn't say no to him. "I'll be there, Grandpa," she said. A week later, she arrived at her grandfather's old house. The smell of fresh food filled the air, but the atmosphere was tense. Her parents greeted her with polite smiles, avoiding real conversation. Grace arrived last, wearing an expensive red dress and carrying a designer purse. She hugged their parents tightly but gave Olivia only a short, fake smile. Dinner started quietly. Grandpa tried to talk about simple things, the weather, his garden, memories of their grandmother. But Grace couldn't help herself. "So Liv," Grace said, cutting her steak with a smirk, "still working at that little law office?" Olivia looked at her calmly. "Yes, still there." Grace chuckled. "Wow, that's cute. I just got back from Bali. You should try traveling sometime. It really opens your mind." Their father laughed lightly, trying to ease the tension. "Grace, not everyone can live your kind of life." Grace flipped her hair. "I know, Dad, but she could at least try to enjoy herself. She looks like she's carrying the world on her shoulders." Olivia bit her lip, fighting the urge to respond. Her mother looked at Grace proudly, saying, "She's just responsible, dear. Not everyone has your charm." The words stung. Olivia felt her chest tighten, but she stayed silent. Grandpa noticed. He cleared his throat and looked around the table. "You know," he said, "success isn't always loud. Some people build it quietly." Grace rolled her eyes. "Grandpa, are you talking about Liv? Come on, she's fine. Don't worry so much." Arthur Parker's eyes sharpened. "I'm not worried. I'm watching." His tone made everyone quiet. The rest of dinner passed in uncomfortable silence. After dessert, Grace left early to meet friends, and Olivia stood to help Grandpa back to his room. He walked slowly, his steps weak but steady. Once they were alone, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. He handed it to her with trembling hands. "What's this?" she asked. "Something for you," he said. "Don't open it now. When the time comes, you'll know." Olivia looked at him, confused. "Grandpa, what do you mean?" He gave a faint smile. "Trust me, Liv. When the time comes, speak the truth. That's all I ask. She wanted to ask more, but he looked too tired. She helped him sit down and tucked a blanket around his shoulders. He patted her hand gently. You've grown strong, my girl. I'm proud of you. Those words hit her harder than anything Grace had ever said. It was something she had waited her whole life to hear. As Olivia drove home that night, she kept glancing at the envelope resting on the seat beside her. She didn't open it, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind. Trust me. When the time comes, speak the truth. Something inside her told her that night wasn't just another painful family dinner. It was the beginning of something bigger, something she couldn't yet see. And though she didn't know it, that envelope in her hands held the key to everything that would change her life. Weeks later, the phone rang early in the morning. Olivia picked it up, still half asleep. The voice on the other end was quiet and heavy. Miss Parker, I'm sorry to inform you, but your grandfather, Mr. Arthur Parker, passed away last night. The world seemed to stop. Olivia sat frozen, her heart pounding in her chest. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She hung up and just sat there in silence, staring at the floor. Her grandfather, the only person who truly believed in her, was gone. Days later, the family gathered for his funeral. Grace wore dark designer sunglasses and cried loudly, while their parents comforted her. Olivia stood apart, holding a single white rose. Her eyes were dry, but her heart ached deeply. After the funeral, the family received a message from the family lawyer. Mr. Arthur Parker's will is ready to be read, he said. Please come to my office on Friday at noon. Grace's eyes lit up with confidence. Finally, some good news, she whispered to their mother. Olivia heard it, but said nothing. Friday came. Everyone sat in the lawyer's office, the same room where Olivia's heart had once been broken. Grace looked relaxed, crossing her legs and smiling. Their parents whispered to each other, expecting another easy win. Olivia sat quietly, holding the small envelope her grandfather had given her that night at dinner. The lawyer adjusted his glasses and began reading. This is the last will and testament of Arthur James Parker. The room went still. To my granddaughter Grace, the lawyer continued, who has been blessed enough in this life, I leave my memories. Grace blinked, confused. Wait, what? The lawyer looked up but kept reading. To my granddaughter Olivia, who was denied fairness but never lost her integrity, I leave my home, my business shares, and my full estate. The room exploded. What? Grace shouted, slamming her hand on the table. That's not fair. This must be a mistake. Their father stood up angrily. There's no way. Arthur must have been pressured. Sit down. The lawyer interrupted firmly. There's one more thing. He pulled out a small USB drive and plugged it into a laptop. Mr. Parker left a message for all of you. The screen came to life. Grandpa's face appeared, tired but clear, filmed only days before he passed. If you're watching this, Arthur began, then I'm gone. And I want to make sure my final words are heard. The room went quiet. No one dared to speak. I watched my family over the years, he continued, his voice calm but strong. I saw how greed and favoritism poisoned what should have been love. Grace, my dear, you had every blessing handed to you. Yet you never learned gratitude. Money reveals character, and yours revealed selfishness. Grace gasped, her eyes wide. Grandpa, how could you? Arthur's voice continued. Olivia, my live, you were treated unfairly, yet you never became bitter. You worked hard, stayed honest, and carried the Parker name with dignity. That's what true wealth looks like. And that's why everything I built, the house, the business, the savings, belongs to you. He paused, his voice softening. Let this be a lesson. Integrity outlives inheritance. The video ended. No one moved. The silence was so deep, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Grace jumped to her feet, her face red with anger. This is insane. He must have been manipulated. Olivia, what did you do? Olivia looked at her calmly. I did nothing. He just saw the truth. Her father's voice cracked. Arthur changed his will without telling us? The lawyer nodded. Yes. He updated it 3 weeks ago, the night of your family dinner. That revelation hit them like a storm. Their mother sank into her chair whispering, that was the night. She couldn't finish. Grace stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Their father followed, muttering under his breath, while their mother sat frozen. eyes full of disbelief. Olivia stayed seated, tears rolling down her cheeks, not from joy or greed, but from relief. For once in her life, someone had seen her worth. She whispered softly, "You kept your promise, Grandpa." As she walked out of the lawyer's office, the autumn wind brushed against her face. The pain of betrayal still lived inside her, but now it carried something else, peace. For the first time, she didn't feel small or invisible. She felt seen. And though her family's voices echoed in the background, all she could hear was her grandfather's last words in her heart. Money reveals character. Olivia's revealed gold. Olivia inherits the estate but doesn't flaunt it. She moves quietly into her grandfather's old home, a peaceful, sunlit house filled with memories and the scent of his books. Every corner reminds her of his wisdom and kindness. Instead of spending lavishly, she chooses purpose. She sets up a scholarship fund in her grandmother's name to help hardworking students who, like her, were once overlooked. "It's what Grandpa would have wanted," she whispers as she signs the first donation papers. Word spreads fast. People begin to respect her for her grace and humility. Journalists reach out, curious about the granddaughter who inherited everything yet stayed grounded. Olivia smiles politely and declines interviews. She doesn't need the spotlight. Her peace is her success. Then one quiet afternoon, she receives a message from her mother. "Olivia, can we meet? We need to talk." A few days later, they meet at a small cafe. Her parents look older, worn by guilt. Grace sits beside them, her confidence gone. "Olivia," her father begins, his voice low. "We were wrong. We let pride blind us." Her mother's eyes glisten. "We thought we were helping Grace, but we hurt you instead." Grace whispers, "I'm sorry, Liv. I didn't know how much I'd lost until I saw who you became." Olivia listens silently. She feels the ache of old wounds, but the pain doesn't control her anymore. She takes a deep breath and says softly, "Forgiveness isn't about going back. It's about moving forward." They nod, tears in their eyes. But Olivia knows, some distances are meant to stay. She forgives them in her heart, but doesn't offer to reconnect. She's learned that peace sometimes means letting go. Months pass. Olivia thrives. Her career blossoms, her scholarship fund grows, and her home becomes a place of warmth and quiet joy. One evening, as the sun sets, she stands on the balcony her grandfather built, looking at the horizon. The wind feels gentle, carrying his voice in memory. "Money reveals character, Olivia. Yours revealed gold." A small smile crosses her face. She closes her eyes, not in triumph, but in peace. For the first time in years, Olivia feels whole. Not because she won, but because she never lost herself. Olivia visits Grandpa's grave early in the morning, when the air is soft and the world feels quiet. She kneels down, her fingers brushing over his name carved into the stone. From her bag, she takes out the small envelope, the same one he gave her that night at dinner. The note inside is old and creased, but the words are still clear. "Trust me. When the time comes, speak the truth." With gentle hands, she places it on the stone and whispers, her voice trembling, "You kept your promise, Grandpa. Now it's my turn to keep mine." For a moment, she just stands there, letting the wind carry her tears. It's not sadness anymore. It's gratitude. Gratitude for his love, for his wisdom, for believing in her when no one else did. She looks up at the sky and smiles softly. "You were right," she says. "The truth always finds its way." As she walks away, the sunlight breaks through the clouds, touching the grave like a quiet blessing. Her voice plays in a gentle voiceover. "In the end, the truth doesn't just set you free. It shows who was chained all along." The camera lingers on the grave, the note fluttering lightly in the breeze, then fades to Olivia walking down the path, head high, calm and free. She doesn't look back. She doesn't need to. Because this time, the past is at peace. And so is she. Hi, besties two hearts, thank you so much for watching till the end. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories. See you in the next one. Sparkling heart.